Welcome to the Oddschecker Cheltenham Preview podcast. I'm joined by Oddschecker jockey ambassador, if that makes sense in that order. Nick Scholfield, Cheltenham Festival-winning jockey. Harry Whittington, trainer of St Calvados. I was about to say Altior. St Calvados, Simply the Bet, and Big Marcher. Andy Holding, our resident tipster, and On the Blind Side's owner and pro punter, Mike Spence. Well done, guys, all for coming. Obviously, Beast to the East going on outside, so good to see no non-runners here, whilst races cancelled at Kempton and Newcastle, which went to all other tracks. But good to have you all here. We're going straight into it with Wednesday's racing. We're going to go into the Ballymore, and only one place to start, and that is not Samcro, is it, Mike? We are going to talk to you about On the Blind Side.
It's going to be a good race, isn't it? I think that's one way of putting it. Yeah. I mean, I think he, in terms of British novice form, he sets a very strong standard. We're very happy with him. He's learnt so much race to race. I think he's really improved, and I think we've got to go there with very, not confident, but incredibly hopeful, and very hopeful of a big run, really.
With your kind of punter's hat on rather than your owner's hat, how do you see his form and his price? I mean, he's 6-1 currently, best price with Paddy Power. How do you see that comparing to Samcro, who's 4-5 best price but as short as 2-1, and then next Destination, who's a similar price as well?
I think he's a bit big, really. I think he just doesn't have the jazzy profile and the reputation that Samcro has, really. I mean, he's sort of, to be perfectly honest with you, he's surprised us when he won at Cheltenham, and then he did surprise me with how easily he did win at Sandown. I mean, he really has grown up. And I think people are more that he's never really had the hype around him. The headlines before the race has never been about him. But it's going to be interesting. I think he'll relish the track and the going back there, the course, and the pace of the race will really suit him as well. I think he's more of a 2.5 mile than a 3 miler. I think this is the right race, and it'll be interesting to see what the other guys think of Samcro. Everyone's got their own opinion. I mean,
he's the talking horse, really.
He is the talking horse, yeah. Yeah, I think he's. I wasn't that keen on his last run. I think he could only win as he did win, and he couldn't have won any more impressively. But watching split screens with the juvenile, it was hard to be blown away if you watched them in split screens, and that's lingering in my mind, albeit Samcro did it relatively unextended.
And before we move on to Samcro, what does the future hold for On the Blind Side going forward?
He definitely goes chasing next year. So he's built like a chaser already. I mean,
have you scored him over fences yet?
No, not yet. There's a lot of very good chasers that get, especially over the distance he'll be running over, that get beat as novice hurdlers. I mean, it's far from the end of the world if he's to get beat at Cheltenham. He looks a chaser already. He's going to be a better horse chasing. He was bought for chasing, so
point winner.
I mean, this year's just a bonus. It just happens to be going very well so far, but.
Certainly very visually impressive in his wins, but I'm kind of going to come to Harry now, who risked the wrath of Mike earlier when we were talking and said that his bet of the day was Samcro.
I've just been mightily impressed with him, and he looks straightforward, and travels and he jumps, and he just seems to find it all so easy, and I've just been really, really impressed with him. At the end of the day. I would love to train him. I'd love to train On the Blind Side. Also, I went to ride him.
I'd love to own On the Blind Side, so we can be.
Yeah. Well, I did try and buy On the Blind Side a year ago, but couldn't find anyone to buy him. So I went to ride him. I even went to ride him out after his point win. I was so impressed with him. So it pains me every time he wins, and that's probably why I'm so much in the Samcro. No, I'm not like that. But anyway, at the end of the day, no, I just think I've just been hugely impressed with Samcro. And he came through the Colin Bow operation, and he looks very straightforward, and he's got an awful lot of class, and I just think that if On the Blind Side did beat him, well, wow, he's going to make some chaser, isn't he? And obviously, On the Blind Side has been really impressive as well, and it's going to be a great race, a great spectacle. But I'm just in the Samcro camp at the moment. Yeah.
Before I come to Andy to talk about this matchup and any other horses that might take his fancy, I think it's an interesting one here to speak to Nick about. If it was up to you, would it be an easy decision to ride Samcro, or do you think you can see the juice and why maybe go for one of the other ones?
Good question. Yeah, to be honest, I'd be. The right judges are saying Samcro's the real deal. You know, the people that are talking about him and saying he's the real deal are not to be laughed at. So you've got to respect that. But you've got to respect the people on the blind side as well. So it's two big.
One sitting to my left.
Yeah, no, but two big operations with two very good horses, and someone's reputation is going to fall short. But just from visually, I said to a friend of mine after Aintree, that on the blind side was one of the best. Appearances that I'd seen. The way he quickened away, Nico didn't get serious with him, and
it's funny because early on, Mike, he did look like he was going to be more of a 3-miler in the spring after his first run at Aintree, sort of thing. Did you sort of think?
I think after Cheltenham we did, but I just think he was so mentally not there, and he was becoming outpaced as well because he just wasn't sharp enough mentally, and I think he's grown up. I think that all showed at Sandown though. It all came together.
It sharpened him up almost.
Yeah, I think so. He really learned. I don't think he learned an awful lot at Aintree. He learned a hell of a lot more at Cheltenham.
Yeah,
when he had to run on past them.
Yeah,
but he's shown at Aintree they went very slow.
Yeah,
and he showed the best turn of foot. In Cheltenham he showed his state. So for me, he's got a bit of everything. Whereas Samcro, he's run on soft ground. He looks like a proper stayer, and I personally think on blindside I might do him for a bit of toe. That's just my opinion, but. I don't want to put my head on the block, but just because the people are saying that Samcro's the real deal and he might well be the real deal, so it's a tough one, but I wouldn't mind riding either. So.
These are great, these races, aren't they? Because they're unknown.
Yeah.
These novices, these talented young horses. Is very exciting.
Yeah, I mean, I interesting to see Betfair sticking their neck out on the line and going 4-5, Samcro and next destination 6-1 as well. Andy, how do you approach this race? How do you assess the chances on form of those three at the top or anything else at a bigger price?
I wouldn't be as mad on the blind side as everybody either side of me here. There's something just not right about that race he won at Sandown, just from a pure time perspective. Mike's already mentioned as well that the juveniles ran 20 lengths quicker on the last circuit. Now either those juveniles are complete worldies or on the blind side's not as good as what everyone thinks. I mean, Sussex Ranger was the winner of the juvenile. He's a nice horse, but he got beat by We Have a Dream next time out. So I think he's poor value on the blind side. Out of the next two behind Samcro in the betting, I'd sooner back Next Destination, the Willie Mullins horse.
I have to pull you guys apart in a second, but
I know it's just my view.
Of course,
right or wrong. I mean, you've got to have a view in this game, haven't you?
I'm definitely joking.
And I think Next Destination is rather flying here under the radar. I think he'll come here rather than the Albert Bartlett because this is the classy of the two staying novice races, and I think Willie Mullins likes to run his better quality horses in this race rather than the Albert Bartlett. I don't think he's had the Albert Bartlett winner yet. He's had loads of winners in the
They
Ballymore.
tend to do that, don't they? To find out, they get more information from it going forwards in chasing future and everything else.
Yeah.
That the middle distance is kind of like, have they got enough speed and do they stay? It's kind of I think they learn more from the Ballymore, don't they?
Well, I think you need a little bit of everything in the Ballymore. I often find, having watched the race over the years, they tend to go quite slow early, and then they really do trap on the last circuit. That's why I think about 3 out of the last 5 years winners have run the last circuit quicker than the Champion Hurdle because they are really quickening up. Like York Hill, I think that's where everyone's coming from with York Hill. Oh God, he's run quicker than Hot Hurricane Fly on the last circuit. Wow. He's got to be a 2-miler rather than a 2.5 miler.
Of course he was.
And I think that's why Gigginstown have done what they've done with Samcro. They always avoid the champion bumper. They see a lot of their horses as 3-mile chasers, so therefore the 2.5 mile intermediate distance is the way to go. I think he could win the Supreme, Samcro. I think of what we've seen, he does look a really smart horse. His time figure last time out wasn't that great, but I think he could have gone quicker.
Are there parallels to be drawn with Death Duty from last year, who obviously bombed out after a similar profile?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, he's a funny horse, Death Duty. He looks as though he's got a little bit of a hole in him, as he proved last time out, whereas this fella just looks bomb-proof. He's got a great temperament as well. You watch him in the prelims at Leopardstown, he's almost like it goes around like a sheep, and he settles in a race. He doesn't fight the jockey's hands. He's just a really talented horse. But at the prices, I do think Next Destination is the one. He beat a really good, strong style last time out, cracking smart. His time figures the time before were very good, and I just like his attitude.
Looking at the old without Samcro market as well, you've got on the blind side is 15-8 with Skybet and Betfair. Next Destination 6-4 with Skybet, but Betfair sticking their neck on the line there as well at 2s. I think I speak for everyone at Oddschecker and wishing Mike lots of luck there, and fingers crossed for him. But it will certainly be a huge race anyway. Moving on now to the RSA, which also looks like a fantastic renewal of the race. We've got Presenting Percy is 11-4 favourite, Monolith 7-2, and then Black Corton 8-1. Going to start with you, Nick, just because Black Corton's a horse and a horse you've ridden before. Surprised to see him in this company, or do you think he's there on merit?
No, I actually won 5 over hurdles on him, so
Did you?
over 2 miles. But he's a 3 mile, and I must say I think he's been wonderfully placed by Paul Nicholls. I think this horse is the prime example for why Paul Nicholls is champion trainer. He's picked and choose the graded races, and he's obviously got a great association with Bryony Frost, and the story's gone with it. But I think the training hasn't got enough credit for sort of finding the races like he has, So for that reason, I'll probably oppose him. It'd be great if he did one and be able to grade one for a girl jockey, blah blah blah. But the realist. But the only thing is, I was going through the race myself, thinking what could actually beat it. Now Willoughby Court's out. There's a few. Monolith, I thought was given a very good ride by Noel Feely in Leopardstown. Got a very easy lead. He isn't going to have that with the likes of Black Corton in the RSA, and I just think. What would he find off the bridle, personally? Monolith.
Are we sure Monolith's going to go for the RSA now that Willoughby Court's out of the JLT?
They have suggested that he will run. Yeah.
Right.
I think he will go.
It's an open race, isn't it? For me, watching Black Corton, I just watch him race, and I just wonder whether he's got enough class to win an RSA. Ad Ascot over the first couple, he doesn't sort of look like he oozes quality. I mean, it's a magnificent placing through for this RSA, and it's so open. I don't think it's quite a weak. Looks quite a weak renewal, but he doesn't look like he's going to find off the bridle because he doesn't. He's got, he's not a sort of big striding quality sort of animal. So I always look at him and think, does he have enough class? But the way he kind of did finish off his race at Ascot was really impressive. I mean, I'm absolutely gutted for the Anthony Honeyball camp, because I think Fountains Windfall would have I think he was, I think it was something like 7-1 was he for the race and everything else. And I think he would have been a huge contender. So that was just terrible. So he was my kind of horse. Before, but anyway, it is an open race. But with Black Corton, I'm a bit like it with Big Martra, to be honest. Obviously, we're going to go on to him, but I worry, does he have enough class to win one of these? And I'm a bit like that with Black Corton. Anyway. And
how are we looking at the top two in the market? As I said, Presenting Percy 11-4, Monolith 7-2.
I think Monolith should run in the 2.5 mile race. I remember the Albert Bartlett last year, having backed him, and he travelled like the best horse, thinking this horse is a 2.5 miler. Yeah. Yes, he does get 3, but will he get 3 at Grade 1 level when they go a real strong pace? And this is always a real severe test, the RSA. It often throws up a lot of the odd funny results away, because you don't normally get not normally, but sometimes you can get the sort of sloggers that win it rather than the sexy ones. So
he likes to be ridden prominently, Monolith, doesn't he?
He does, yeah. I just think the JLT is his best option.
Hope he doesn't run in that.
Yeah.
Presenting Percy, isn't it? Presenting Percy. Yeah. You'd have thought he's the sort of class horse going into the race, but he did have a hell of a hard race against our Duke, which would worry you. Yeah. But he's sort of a horse that I thought looks high class, adds the class to win a race like the RSA. I'd just be really worried about this prep run against our Duke. But what do you think?
It was an odd run to run in the Red Mills.
I thought it was an odd decision, yeah.
I thought he would have gone straight there. I mean, don't forget, Pat Kelly knows what he's doing. I mean, he's trained this horse brilliantly. He's a very shrewd operator, so got to leave it to the trainer, I suppose. I actually thought he was going to beat our Duke all the way down the straight last time out in our Duke Stadium. So if you do fancy our Duke for the Gold Cup, like some do, you will be wanting Presenting Percy to go very close here.
It's a hell of a piece of form, isn't it? It's just
it's quality, against a possible Gold Cup winner. But he's got a bit of everything, Presenting Percy. He travels great. He jumps well. He stays well. He's won a 3 mile 5 race at Fairy House in a good time figure. And of course, Davy Russell, who's probably pound for pound one of the best Cheltenham jockeys out there, rides him. So he'll make sure that he jumps well, preserves energy. But getting onto Black Courton, if you do fancy Black Courton, some do, there's a horse I think is a really interesting contender if the Tizzards decide to go here rather than the 4 Mile, and I think he would be a player because he isn't the classiest of horses, but I do think Elegant Escape, he's definitely worth a mention, because on the day when he beat Black Courton at Newbury and Anthony's fell at the third last one, I think he was half beaten actually, Fountain's Windfall. The time figure that he posted that day, and particularly his circuit time, stacked up really well against Gold Present, who won the 2 Mile 5 handicap. I think he was about 6 seconds quicker than that in the last circuit, and he was also 3 seconds quicker than Total Recall. So he can really operate at a good level when it's a test of stamina.
And Tizzard's horse would be in better form now than he probably were back then.
Absolutely, that's another really good point. And I don't think Kempton suited him in the race that Black Courton beat him in. It was a tight track. They didn't go as quick as he would have liked. He's all about stamina, Elegant Escape. He's got Cheltenham form. He's a very, very reliable type. I don't know what price he is. I haven't looked in the last week or two.
He's best price, non-runner, no bet is 16-1 with Boyles. You're getting a bit of 20s, even 25-1 with Sporting Bet.
Absolutely massive price that is. He's probably the pick of the prices for me in that race. If he runs, I think he's going to be a dangerous floater.
There you go, a certified Andy Holding tip there, exclusive so far to the podcast and the video. Elegant Escape in the RSA. Unless, Mike, you got anything to add to that, I'm going to move on to the Coral Cup.
Nothing
Nothing of value to add anyway. But so onto the Coral Cup now. And again, we won't focus on this too much. Just ask you guys if any horses you want to flag up.
I had 3 and they're actually all trained by Nicky Henderson. Quite strange. I thought William Henry.
Remind me who on the blind side's trained by?
Yeah.
It just happened to be that way. I think William Henry is an interesting one. I think he's a very worthy favourite. I mean, he is 151 now, which it's not low, but I think he sets a very high standard. I mean, he's going to be a very worthy favourite, and I think he's going to be favourite for a reason, really. I mean, the other 2 I had were Burbank, who's a bit of a bigger price. He's 20-1, but he was 4th in the Ballymore last year, which wasn't a bad race. Willoughby Court won it. Neon Wolf was 2nd. I mean, he was up against it that year, but dropping into a handicap, he might just run a fair bit better. I think he could be a bit better than 143, which he runs off. I mean, if you're going to compare, for William Henry to be a worthy bet off 151, you've got to have quite a bit in hand to win these handicaps. And I suppose that's the question with William Henry is, he could be that much better, but it is going to be a big ask. But the one I thought was at a non-runner, no bet price. I think he's unlikely to run in the race because I think they're going to swing the bat and go for the Ballymore themselves. But OK Corral, however you pronounce it, was an incredibly impressive winner the other day. I know he's very highly regarded, and I know they think he's definitely could be. He's had his problems, but he's an enormous horse, and if they happen to let him take his chance, he won't go off 14-1. He's the horse that could go off.
16 as well.
He could go off favourite if he was to turn up. I mean, he's the type of JP Punter at the festival that, he's so well regarded that in what's a pretty open race. I know he's not had that much racing and it might just count against him, but I think there's a hell of a lot of ability in him.
Yeah.
So that is Mike's 3 there, all Henderson trained. William Henry 10-1 across the board. Burbank 20-1 across the board, and OK Coral is 16-1, no run, no bet, with a couple of firms, Bet Victor and Unibet, 2 of them. Anyone else? Any more for any more?
I think it's a really good shout by Mike to mention anyway, OK Corral. As a horse, as an individual, I think he's got a supreme amount of talent. Whether the Coral Cup's his race, I don't know. But the horse that beat him at Newbury, another one of Nicky's, I can't remember its name.
A long name.
A long name beginning with Watt.
Keep going, I'll find out his name.
That has won since on Betfair Hurdle Day in a very good time. I think that both of those 2 are very smart. And then he did win well at Kempton. But going back to Kempton, the form of the Lanzarote, I think, is one of the best handicaps.
What's wrong with you?
What's wrong with you?
Yeah.
What's wrong with me? I can't remember.
What's wrong with you?
What is wrong with you?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
What are you doing?
Yeah. That is definitely the best 2.5 mile handicap we've run so far this season. The form has worked out well. Top of the game has won since, and I think he's a player. Yeah. If he runs in the Coral Cup, he travelled really well in the Sandown race. He probably would, but I think he might well get it. And I do think Ben Pauling's horse will run well if Connections decide to go. A horse called Red Indian.
Yes.
He was 3rd in that race. They ran him at Chelsea the day, but the ground was atrocious, and he's by Suleimani, and I think he's been waiting for good ground for a long, long time, that horse.
Reddington 33-1 with Labrooks, NRNB as well.
Whether Ben runs it or he runs Le Broil, I don't know, but they're both talented novices, and
lots of money coming from Le Broil in the last kind of 48 hours as well, and from 20s into about the 14-1 mark, still 16s around with 365.
Yeah, so look, 2 against the field. They both ran in the Lanzarote. Red Indian, who was 3rd, and top of the game, who was 4th. Probably back one of those 2 each way, or both each way.
Nick, any idea who you'll be riding here?
Trouble is with this race, the boys' races, the conditional jockeys race is very similar. So it's Harry Taylor, so many variables, what horse will go where. But the only thing I'd say, you almost need a graded horse for this race, because
Super Sunday won it last year.
Presenting Percy won that. Other handicap was it?
And Super Sunday won this race last year.
It's actually a really, really hot contest, this Cole, isn't it? Because there's 2 or 3 in there that could be graded
You want
horses,
a horse that's going to be what you think is a graded horse, because it's such, the handicap. So the way I'd look at it is, I would wait till the entries are out, because you've also got the attempts that some horses all tempted, or the conditional jockeys race, the ground. I think there's quite a lot of variables, although I don't bet, but I wouldn't want to be picking one just yet, as I'm sure a lot of the jockeys won't be committing, because there's quite a lot of variables going into it.
Moving on now to the Champion Chase. And when I said about 15 minutes ago off air to Andy that I thought Altior was a bet, he looked at me with absolute disgust. So I'm going to come to you first and tell me why at 8 to 11 you're avoiding Altior, and I think you're quite keen on Min.
I just get the impression by everyone in the media and good judges that Altior's only got to turn up here and win.
He is the best horse in training, probably, but it's the preparation, isn't it? And this win thing, it seems to be all good, the bounce factor. But
I was excited that Andy seemed to be a good judge.
So talented.
I just don't think there's as much between them as the betting suggests. I'm looking at it from a pure betting perspective. There wasn't a massive chasm between them in the Supreme Novices. And I think Min's improved immeasurably over fences. Obviously, Alzio has as well, which everyone can see. And I'm really looking forward to this race. I think the good thing...
a very good time last time, wasn't it? Quicker than Footpad.
He's run 3 exceptionally fast times, even when he got thrown out at Leopardstown. He's actually top of my figures, other than the also Parto and Dr. Phoenix, who won't run, unfortunately. But like I say, my numbers suggest to me that Min has got more chance than the odds are saying here. That's all I'll say. Let's see what happens. But I've backed Min each way at 11-2, so I'm in a good.
You're happy.
I'm in a good situation where I haven't got to worry about him winning. Whereas if you're thinking of lumping on Altior, I'd be absolutely scared centres of Min being in this race. And given the way the race will be run, special TR if I go off in front, it'll give Min a lovely chance to get a lovely trail through into the race.
Andy, when you get a knock on your door about 2.5 hours after Altior's absolutely hosed up, you'll know it's me.
But as long as Min finishes second, then we're still winning.
Min 7-2 best price with Betfair, even now, despite being as short as 9-4 elsewhere. Mike, I'm going to come to you about possibly the forgotten horse in National Hunt Racing, whether or not he will ever run again or run here, we don't know. But Duvan's still available at 4-1 with Bet365. Is that interesting, or can we just not? It's not a punting proposition at the moment.
It's not running no bet that 4-1, but I don't think I'd want to be having a bet in this race until they turned up. But for me, I want to believe everything I read, but I know how owners work, and given that Richie doesn't have a runner in the Ryanair, there's just something in my mind that tells me he's not going to want to see Min and Duvan running against each other.
That's fair.
There's just something that I know how owners work, and given that Richie wants a runner in every race, or maybe he does or doesn't, the last thing that owners really want is to run 2 horses against each other for the sake of it. And I wouldn't be having a bet until the day.
And really, you'll want one in the...
Exactly.
He's also got...
You can't ride both of them, can you?
And he's got undersow.
He's got undersow. So there's the dilemmas there as well. They've also got undersow. So, but if something was to happen to undersow, say it did, who switches there? There's a lot of they've got a lot of horses to sort of jostle into position here, and I wouldn't want to be making a call now about who's going to run where. Duvan, they keep saying he's in good form, and although he's not bang on target, as long as he jumps through the hoops he's got to get through, then he's going to be running at Cheltenham, is what they keep saying. And I'd rather see I know Richie loves Douvan so much. He's the apple of his eye, and to see him running against Min might just, I wouldn't be putting my house on it. They'll both run the same. They'll both run the champion chase.
And just a word, Harry, on Altior. Obviously, you're based pretty close to his trainer and probably know the horse fairly well. How do you see this kind of match bet shaping up?
Well, at the end of the day, if Altior is 100%, and he looked that way at Newbury last time, there's obviously always the worry that the wind issue and the operation and this, that, and the other. But if he turns up, he's the best horse in training. And I think he wins the race. But when something's had an issue like a wind and it's had an operation, you can't, and the price is short as it is, you can't be, too confident that that he's going to turn up and be the same horse, and so it's obviously worrying, but at the same time, I think the vibes from the camp are that he's A1, so you've got to believe that he's going to turn up and
he certainly
do his
looked
thing.
it, after that run back, Nico just gave him a quick squeeze and it was away ahead of in Plutterlog, a horse who'd some thought would be able to exactly. Again, who do you, given it's basically a match bet, who would you choose if you were given the option of the two?
Let's say I retired and I've got a mortgage on my house, I would literally put my mortgage on Altior to win. Honestly, this horse jumps. He jumps. Do you know what I mean? He's 12 out of 12 over hurdles and fences. I just can't see any negatives. He beat Min by 7 lengths in the Supreme. He's better over fences in my opinion. So
I smell a Scholfield double of Bouvert Dare Altior, and it's going to be
I know it's not
very
original, but for me, he's
Mr.
a proper racehorse, trained by a master.
He is awesome.
And the great thing is, from Nico's point of view, if you noticed at Newbury, he was going to make the running. Sam was obviously told by Paul Nicholls to sit on his girth. So then Sam got run off with. So Nico just said, come back, took a lead. You can ride him. You don't have to ride him in a certain way, or you don't need things, whatever the scenario, that
So
horse can cope with.
Yeah.
And, horses like him don't come along with that often. And I think he'd win a Ryanair as well.
Given the way we're all talking about the Henderson horses, I think we better, by the end of this podcast, look at the top trainer market, because by the looks of things, he's going to win every single race at the festival. One that he probably won't win is what we're going to talk about next, and that is the cross country. I think this might be quite a brief chat. I mean, does anyone have anything of note that they want to talk about here?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, Cause of Causes has basically been laid out for this, hasn't he, to win it again like he did last year. He's a cracking little horse, isn't he? He's not very big, but give him Cheltenham in the spring, he just seems to come alive. So that run the other day when he was down the field in that 2.5 mile race at Leopardstown was just basically used as a stepping stone for this. Yeah. But I do think Auvergnat, who finished 4th in this race last year, could certainly improve upon his position. Whether he turns a form around with Cause of Causes completely is open to question, but he got into a horrible rhythm that day. He just got into a poor track position because a couple of early scratchy little mistakes, and he could never really get on terms. He made the ground up, but the effort to make the ground up obviously took its toll. Uncharacteristically, he actually fell at the race at the Paddy Power meeting, but he was back on track the last day when he beat Josie's Orders in the Best Irish Trial. He's a decent horse, Auvergnat, and he's got lots of low mileage. So again, at the price, I think he's 9-1 top price. I'd sooner be with him each way, Auvergnat.
So Cause of Causes 7-2, a Sporting Bet is the favourite, and Auvergnat, as Andy said, 9-1, and that is with Betfair. Anyone else? Move on to the Fred Winter now. Another race where, again, I'm going to open it to the floor. Any horse people want to flag up?
Yeah, I've got a really strong view on this.
Here
race.
we go, perfect. Another certified tip coming up right now.
Well, unfortunately, they're all out in the public domain. I tipped them last week, but I put up Dan Skelton's horse.
You put up Nick Scholfield. Nick doesn't even know what he's riding yet.
I put up Dan Skelton's horse, Nubi Negra. I think this is a really shrewd bit of training by Dan. He won with it first time out at Market Raising, a good time figure, and then he took it to Cheltenham to have a bit of a sight at the track, albeit over the new course when he finished second to Apple Shakira. But actually going down to this last, the two of them were still on the bridle, and you thought, oh God, Apple Shakira's in trouble here. And then obviously the better horse, the Grade 1 horse, just went away from him. Harry was not hard on Nubia Negra, so job done. They've run it around Cheltenham. They got a mark of 135, and they ran it in a novice hurdle at Doncaster, whereby he had literally had a jog round. Apparently he wasn't 100% fit as well, and he still came out of that race with a mark of 135. I think he's really well handicapped, given that you think Apple Shakira could be a 150 plus horse. Yeah. They've put it away, and conditions-wise it wouldn't make any difference, good, soft or whatever. He's a strong traveller, he jumps his hurdle slick. I thought the 14, 16 to 1 anti-post was too big. And the other real rick of the race, where I could say anyway a week ago, was the Lisp of Alan King's. I think Alan King's got a really good set of juveniles this year, Rhodesian of course, he's got City Dreamer, and he's got this Lisp who ran really well in a good trial for this race. The Victor Ladorum, is it, that's at Haydock? It's a race that threw up Black High Hawk a few years ago. And it was one of my stronger run juvenile races of the year. And unfortunately, Tom Cannon couldn't actually hold this horse early on, and he took the running up down the back, which is not his run style, and he literally ran for a mile flat out in front. He made a bad mistake at the second last, and yet he only got beat 2 lengths by 2 strong stayers, Cornerstone Lad and the eventual winner, Turning Gold. And furlong per furlong, that was the best time in the card. They ran the last circuit quicker than Donna's Diamond, then Chef de Zobu, who won for Dickie Henderson. He actually, that juvenile race actually beat Chef de Zobu by 35 lengths. Yeah. So you know that's a really good juvenile. Yeah. Hills went 40 to 1 after that race.
That's not around anymore, Andy. You've seen to that.
Absolutely ridiculous for a quality horse. So those are my 2 against the field. I think they both go into the race with excellent credentials, and I'll be disappointed, to say the least, if one of those 2 doesn't finish in the first 4. So Nubia Negra and Lisp are my 2.
Nubia Negra 10 to 1 pretty much across the board, and Lisp, there's still a bit of 20s around.
That's still too big.
Non-runner bet at 365. Anyone to add anything to that for Fred Winter?
I tell you, Nubia Negra was lightly penciled down on my sheet, but I didn't know how much value was still left in the price it was. I'd rather see them on the day now, to be honest.
Did that price disappear when the yellow star came across his name on the Oddschecker?
It should be an 8 to 1 the field race on the day, and firms will be betting 5 and 6 places, so if you're not already on, you have got the caveat of getting an extra place or 2 on the day.
Just from a race point of view, I'm lucky enough to win it for Paul Nicholls on Quilando and finish second. You need a horse that stays the trip very well. For whatever reason, it's probably one of the weakest handicaps of the week, but they go very fast, and they're only 3-year-olds, and nothing really, they sort of turn the bend and they can all fall in the hole. You need a horse that can sort of lay out with the pace but also stay up the hill, and I think top weight's very hard to carry in the race like that. If you actually watched the race last year, Flying Tiger, Richard Johnson, they come from last, and Richard Johnson put it in the race from 2 out, and it was the only one to really stay on up the hill. So you need a horse that can jump. So whatever you choose, I'd watch the replays, and because very often these juveniles can be run on soft ground where they don't go very fast, and the jumping is not so much of an asset, and they go to Cheltenham on good ground, and the jumping, you only need to miss 2 or 3 hurdles of the 8, and that can cost you the race. So I'd sort of, before you back a horse seriously, look at the replays and just check its jumping's up to scratch.
Or even have a look during the race and that's travelling well further down the field.
Yeah. Paul Nicholls actually now.
Malala.
Paul Nicholls got an amazing record in this race. I was doing the stats on it the other night.
We did a first and second.
I was second.
Absolutely, yeah.
Remained the same, Semaine, was it?
I think he's.
Mayala's 25 to 1.
I think he had the first 2 home a couple of years ago. Yeah. But I think he's won it 3 times since his inception.
They're all French type horses coming from France, which often means they're very good jumpers. They're so well scored as 2-3-year-olds, and I think it's a massive asset if you've got a horse with plenty of experience, especially in the jumping department in this race.
Dickie Johnson, he rode a juvenile for me once at Market Raisin, and it was a poor race, and he won very, very easily, hacked up. He's called Duke of Medina. He actually ran in the Fred Winter, but he's a big outsider. He's only rated in the 50s on the flat, and we ended up off a mark of 137 over hurdles, but he was completely outclassed at Cheltenham. But when he got off him at Market Raisin, I said to him, Triumph hurdle, getting a bit carried away, and he said, he jumps and he stays well, so I wouldn't put you off, Really? Yeah, he said, at the end of the day, these juvenile and handling, cutting the ground, but if they stay well and they jump well, then you can have a lot of fun with them as juveniles, if you know what I mean. So, it's all about staying and it's all about jumping, like they are first season hurdlers, aren't they? So, if they miss 1 or 2, like you say, the game's over.
Before we go on to the only reason why people are actually listening to this for the naps, I think we will just close of the champion bumper, and in my opinion, anyone who manages to back the winner of the champion bumper deserves more than just their winnings. It's probably the only race of the week I try and avoid. I know, Harry, you had a couple of options of horses you could have sent.
Options? Nah.
No? Option?
I just couldn't do it to a young horse, you know.
Yeah, well, that's what I was going to ask you about. I mean,
I really couldn't.
From a trainer's point of view?
You know, I got one, Animois. He won at Huntington really, really nicely. He's a lovely, lovely horse. He's got a great mind. I mean, if there was a horse that you would run in it, it would be Animois, because he's so laid back and he's an absolute dude of a horse. You know, he's so straightforward. But I just can't do it to him. He's a lovely, big, rangy type. He's going to jump fences one day, which is unusual with his pedigree being a half-brother to Lorraine, who was obviously a top 2-year-old this winter and won the Fillies Mile. But he... it's for me. It's, you know, it can ruin good, nice young horses. So I don't have any interest in it.
We've spoken before about how, you know, you see a lot of horses who win this race not go on to much, and you see horses run down the field. So it's not really a great barometer.
Q-Card did all right, mate.
Well, that's exactly what I said when we spoke about it. You saw my line. Mike, anything catching your eye here?
Not
You're on my page with the avoidance.
I like the look of Jamie Snowden's horse, the Arakan. I can't remember what it's called. I thought that was so impressive at Warwick. Wow.
And the Nick Gifford horse did well as well.
And then Nick's horse is he's very good, isn't he? He won the listed race, didn't he?
And AC Milan with Honeyballs, that's another one.
AC Milan, 10 to 1 that is.
Actually, could be a good race, couldn't it?
We're going to go through them all. Just before we move on to the naps, Andy, you put up Rhinestone.
Yeah, obviously my time figures lead me down the right path in this race, because bumpers are intrinsically slowly run events, and who can quicken at the end. So I tend to concentrate on the ones who have done good numbers. So I think I've got a reasonable idea of where we stand here. I actually backed Claiming Taking Forgan in this race last year, because he'd done a big number at Doncaster and he finished 4th, was it? So
4th or 5th,
I wasn't a million miles away. The best bumper in Ireland this season by a mile was the race at Leopardstown on the Leopardstown 2-day festival. It was won by Black Bow. He beat a very good field. They looked fantastic in the paddock, and I was hoping that Rhinestone would run well and back up his Thurles time figure. And I came away from that race that day thinking I was even more impressed with him in getting beat. He just got not outpaced, but he got tactically done by Paddy Mullins on Blackbow, kicked off the bend at Leopardstown. He just got 3 or 4 lengths, and then Rhinestone for the last 2 furlongs was getting him slowly. But he just couldn't make the ground up on that really heavy ground, because the winner's a bigger, stronger type. But I think on better ground, Rhinestone will turn the form around. He's a lovely type, a proper athlete.
9 to 1 he is, yeah.
He's still a really good price. I'd be amazed if he wasn't in the first 4. Of the English, I wouldn't be as keen on the Gifford horse as I would be several others, just because he hasn't done a number yet. And the horse of, and we talked about him off air, didn't we, beforehand, of Fergal O'Brien's, Time to Move On. I'm getting the vibes that horse might not run, because I think they still think he's a bit raw, he's a bit of a baby, and he might not necessarily have the mental capacity to win a race like that. But rest assured, he's probably pound for pound one of the most talented horses in the race if he does run. But even if he doesn't, follow him, because I think he'll be a serious tool going down the line.
16 to 1 still available there for Time to Move On in the champion bumper. We're going to close this up now, asking the 4 panels for their naps. Don't worry, you won't hear mine. Mike, coming to you first.
I'm going to go split it, if that's all right. OK Corral as a non-runner, no bet in the Coral Cup is my best bet in terms of value, but it's probably an unlikely runner, so I'll go with On the Blind Side.
On the blind side there, Andy.
Well, they're likely to bet 5 or 6 to 1 the field in the champion bumper, and I'm pretty convinced that there'll be at least 4 places with most firms. Some firms will go 5, so that opens up a real possibility of getting stuck into Rhinestone. I'll be absolutely amazed if that horse is in the first 4 or 5.
I'm now going to have a bet in the one race I don't bet on, so that's good. Harry?
Samcro.
Samcro, and at 4 to 5 with Betfair, and Nick.
I was going to say Altior,
no, that's fine. That's fine. I'm glad to hear it. Altior at 8 to 11. Doing one of these for each for each day. The videos will also be going up on YouTube as well. So make sure, having listened to this, that you tune in to both Thursday and Friday's episode, and Tuesday if you haven't listened to it as well.